Thanks, Laura, for that context on this troubling and still developing story. It's where we want to start with our Line Opinion panel, too. Welcome to our three panelists this week. Tom Garrity from Garrity Group Public Relations, Dave Mulryan from Mulryan Nash Advertising, and Julia Goldberg, a veteran of New Mexico journalism, of course, and now senior correspondent at the Santa Fe Reporter. Thank you all for being here. Now, Laura mentioned those startling numbers. Combined, nearly 50 miles of the Rio Grande in New Mexico is now nothing but sand and gravel. Let's start with your initial reactions when you saw those images. Tom, do you think the rest of the public here was as shocked as many of us?
Oh, absolutely. We all get very accustomed to seeing the Rio Grande with Rio in it. And right. To not have any water in it in different parts is quite jarring and awakening for everyone. And I think it gets a little confusing too, because we'll see the Rio Grande dry in parts, and then we'll see the acequias filled with water for different farms and right. stuff. And so, I think sometimes that creates confusion, which is why I'm glad that Laura and others are providing some education on the topic as far as why we see the acequias and canals have water in some areas, but not necessarily in the river.
That's right. Good points there. And Julia, as Laura pointed out, as Tom mentioned, the river has had dry stretches before. But it's important to understand it's a very different situation than in the past, isn't it? There had been plenty of water stored upstream in the reservoirs. That is not the case in 2022. So this isn't a management decision per se. This is an environmental reality. How do we impress upon our leaders of that reality?
Thanks, Jane. I think State Engineer Mike Hammond and others made a good stab at impressing legislators earlier this week. They, of course, presented to the Water and Natural Resources Committee, and they really showed the numbers and showed that as shocking as these images are and the situation is, not unlike so many aspects of climate change, they're shocking and yet not surprising. Mm-hmm. It's 20 years in the making. This didn't happen overnight. Yep. Texas was seeing comparable problems with the Rio Grande in May. We're seeing similar things with the Gila, with the Colorado River. This is what's happening in the southwestern U.S. And so I know the state is gearing up to present a 50-year water plan to the public starting at the beginning of August. And there's already, I think, Research and Polling did a survey last year that showed the public very much understands what needs to happen in terms of allocation of resources, in terms of planning for this future. And now it's sort of up to lawmakers and officials to make sure that some of those ideas are implemented quickly.
Good point there. Dave, the Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District, state officials, others have been pushing farmers to participate in a voluntary fallowing program, right? Which, for those of us who are not farmers, that would leave their fields unplanted for a season in order to save water, kind of switch back and forth and increase flows. Does that sound like a long-term solution to you?
Well, no. The problem is, I think we need to understand, 90% of all water in this country is used for agriculture. And so it is an economic issue as much as it's anything else. And I think that, what we have to look at is, and it is such a Gordian knot of who regulates water. We federal, state, municipal. It's just really difficult to push through anything. But I think that the progress, when you look in the 80s, like the Rio Grande was dry. It would always go dry, basically, in the 80s. And then, we've sort of changed things around. But I think that ultimately, if you look at places like Las Vegas, they've done a very good job of using reclaimed water for it. And so the thing that I would say is more alarming than, the dried out Rio Grande is the idea that there are no ideas. Like, what is the solution? We keep describing the problem. We've been describing the problem. We need to find the solutions. What are we going to do? How are we going to fix this? And who's going to do it? And is it going to cost money? Where's the money coming from? All these questions that I think have to get answered that never get answered.
But Tom, when you think about it, farmers, it could be argued, are taking the brunt of this. Maybe it should be us city folk who'd be looking a little harder at what we're using before the water even gets downstream to them. Are we doing enough here in the populated areas?
Well, there have been a lot of improvements. I guess it depends where you are, because here in the central New Mexico, the Albuquerque Bernalillo County Water Utility Authority, even though I don't like the lack of accountability that it has, they've been doing a lot of really good work in water conservation. During this COVID time, a lot of people were spending a lot of money on home improvements. Maybe some of those had to do with water fixtures. As far as outside of the Albuquerque area with with farmers, I would like to see a little bit more info as far as from what are the economic impacts from having the fields fallowed, because what's that ripple effect, to use that phrase, but on the rural communities, because typically you would have those fields that would be filled with crops that would need to be harvested and people to do that, and then all of a sudden it's just like that economic impact piece is not there. But one of the things that I'm not necessarily as fatalistic as Dave, and although I think Dave brings up some great points, is that water really is all about economic development. In looking at it, because without water, we're not going to do a whole lot of economic development. And I think that there have been some good things that have been taking place, and they're just the lack of solutions, I think, is accentuated because of we get at the time that we don't have a whole lot of water and we have a whole lot of heat. And that gets people hot under the collar to say, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And so I think that there are some things going on that are happening. As the fallowing the fields is one thing, but there could be a lot of additional work that could be done. I think the government and all the different entities that are lined up to kind of have a say in this particular fight, they need to communicate their message better.
Julia, tied up in all this, of course, is the fact that we owe, as a state, we owe Texas water as part of the Interstate Compact. But with the outstanding debt and no water in the bank, so to speak, we don't have anything other than the hope of rain to bail us out in this deal. And how can we give water to another state when we don't have enough of our own? Is this time to sit down and really start to hammer perhaps a new deal with these compacts at this point?
Well, I think that there's some skepticism on the part of Texas that for that exact reason that lawmakers will agree to a deal. And what I'm hearing and understanding is that get those deals signed, get that dealt with, because there's so many other pieces to this. The fallowing is one, but dozens of proposals on the table relating to infrastructure, relating to closer metering, relating to closer monitoring. There's so many things at play that the compact situations kind of just need to be settled and decided. And I think that the judges on the case are really open and wanting that to happen, because having that then just drain more finances, drain more money that could be going into some of the infrastructure projects.
That's a point. That's it.
Smart enough.
Because we're talking many millions. We're not talking about a few thousand to settle this issue. Could be used elsewhere. That's a very good point, Julia. Interesting. David, interestingly, Laura and Professor Dom touched on this, but the situation of impacting our entire ecosystem, not just humans, and I'm talking about the silvery minnow, is facing extinction with basically no habitat to live in. Does this serve as a marker or a motivator for climate action? I mean, remember the big kerfuffle back when, the silver minnow was first to be protected, people lost their minds. I'm sure you recall.
Well, again, it just goes back to the complexity of all of this. We as citizens need to elect officials, and water's an interesting thing because you can elect them at lots of levels. You can elect them at, this municipal level. You can elect them in a water board. You can elect them. And, we sort of need to, but we as citizens need to better understand what are the issues. I mean, quite honestly, yes, the Rio Grande being dry is it's alarming and it's a good visual, but, the bulk of our water is dependent on the snowpack in Colorado in February, which we're not seeing any pictures of that, which it was very light this year. So, I mean, again, in a way, the pictures of the Rio Grande being dry are alarming, but they're also part of the problem because they don't really tell us anything except the Rio Grande is dry, but that's not really the issue. The issue is we've mismanaged, or we have to manage water better. We have to have better ideas. Can we pull water? At some point in the 80s, I think Saudi Arabia was talking about towing icebergs to Saudi Arabia. I
remember that.
Sounds crazy, but it's an idea, right?
Hey, this is where we are. Exactly right. Thank you all for trying to parse through this complex issue. It's not an easy one, but it is something we'll be covering closely throughout the rest of this year and moving forward.